It's kind of an uncomfortable conversation, but it's time we had it. Maybe the Miami Dolphins' problems run far deeper than just the offense. Plus, we'll talk about the Super Bowl and takeaways from the Super Bowl pertaining to what the Dolphins can learn from the Philadelphia Eagles' victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. Got a lot to talk about. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you are new. We are about 80 away from 17,000. So let's get there on this episode, sponsored by BetUS.
Loses the football. Touchdown! Got it!
You have got to be kidding me.
Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score!
Field on the near side, man open, touchdown!
The run from Tua Tagovailoa.
Touchdown!
He's going deep. It's not over the touchdown again.
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan.
Let's go!
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one. The Super Bowl has concluded, and all the teams in the NFL have caught up to us, and everyone is enjoying their offseason. Well, I guess the Kansas City Chiefs fans aren't really enjoying it because the wounds are fresh, but hey, man, don't worry. You got a couple other rings you can stare at of recent memory that will make those feelings go away pretty quickly. Listen, I got some things I want to talk about the Super Bowl. We're gonna talk. Listen, I gotta talk more about the issues with the Dolphins, obviously, and we're gonna talk about some things that could have been taken away, as well as how tough of an offseason the Dolphins really have in front of them. But I think one thing the Super Bowl showed us was I see people. There's a lot of disagreement on social media right now about Hurts, the offensive line, and everything. Let me say this. Let me start off with this. I think Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, or Cooper DeJean should have been given MVP. Josh Sweat was half a sack away from tying the record in a Super Bowl and a full sack away from breaking the record. He was just phenomenal, okay? And that's the reason they won, was the pressure early on. I mean, Dolphin fans, how many times do I bring up this example? We are Dolphin fans. We all watched Tom Brady throughout his career come to Hard Rock Stadium. How much of a problem was it for him, especially in the Cam Wake and JT eras, where when we got pressure early on Tom Brady, he looked shook. That's why Tom Brady's worst road record in his career is where? In Miami, because we would get pressure early and often, and that would even shake the GOAT at the time. Now what's happening? You're seeing the current era GOAT getting shaken down to the bones because of early pressure. This is why Chris Grier drafted Chop Robinson, because if you could add Chop Robinson and a healthy Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, that's nasty. These are the reasons why Chris Grier values certain premium positions. I'm not defending him. I'm just telling you why. You saw the results yesterday. A dominant pass rush can give you problems. This is why we all thought, and this is why I've been saying for 5 years now, before every season, the motto of this channel is literally what? This team will go as far as the offensive line takes them. This is why a lot of us were worried that even if we face the Chiefs, their front seven, our offensive line couldn't handle. Imagine what our offensive line would have looked like against that Eagles defensive line. in that front seven, we would have been destroyed. I mean, we saw it, right? In Jalen Carter's rookie year, look at the stuff Jalen Carter was doing to Liam Eichenberg, right? Jalen Carter was getting away with a lot of stuff that shouldn't have been flagged. He got away with hands to the face on Mahomes yesterday he should have been flagged for, but he was doing illegal stuff to Liam Eichenberg that was nasty, mean, and he was getting away with it and not being flagged. You know what? That not only can they win one-on-one battles that the trenches over in Philadelphia, but they're nasty. They're mean. They let you know that they're... How many times did you watch after a play where a Chiefs player was walking and you saw an Eagles player, nudge him or walk into him? I saw it a bunch of times with those big defensive linemen because they're letting them know we're here, we're nasty. You need to match that intensity. And the Chiefs have a good offensive line. It's not like they got a bunch of jabronis over there. And for all the people saying, oh, Hurts, dude, the Eagles allowed 10 pressures yesterday. Okay? The Eagles allowed 10 pressures. All right? And a lot of, because I see people trying to say, well, look at what Hurts was doing with some of those runs were designed. They weren't all scrambling and taking off because of pressure. That's the first thing I'm going to say. But the second thing I'm going to say is this. The Eagles didn't blitz on any one of all the 42 dropbacks the Chiefs had, and they generated 16 pressures and sacked Mahomes 6 times. That's the most times Mahomes has been sacked in a game in his career. Like, that's crazy. Josh Sweat had 6 pressures on 34 pass rushes and 2.5 sacks just himself. You know what's crazy? The Eagles generated a pressure rate of 38.1%. Do you realize how ridiculous that is? That's almost 40% of the dropbacks were pressure. That's disgusting. That's like next level. That's a defensive. Give Fangio his credit. That's a defensive masterclass. Like, what? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, the Chiefs, they learned their lesson against the Bucs to not cheapen on the offensive line. They built a pretty good offensive line, and look at what the Eagles and Fangio did to them. Mahomes was running for his life, and we thought it was bad against the Bucs. It was even worse. My God. Like, and why? And yo, it's not even like dude, it's not even like the Philadelphia Eagles are the only trench guys with nastiness. I mean, Creed Humphrey's nasty. Joe Tooney's nasty. Juwan Taylor's a good player. Trey Smith's about to be the highest paid guard in the NFL. And they just said, meh. And they gave him the work. That's crazy, man. Like, that is nuts when you break it down. Like, imagine what Liam Eichenberg and Robert Jones would have looked like. Hey, I like Patrick Paul's potential development, but Patrick Paul hasn't proven he can hold up to that. He probably would have been a turnstile. Austin Jackson's injured, so who would we have had out there? Oh my God, we would have been absolutely annihilated. We would have had 34. We would have allowed 34 pressures. And see, again, context of the situation. This isn't making excuses for Mahomes. This is telling y'all what happened. Right? See, what's crazy is this is how you can tell I'm objective. I'm keeping the same energy that I keep for Tua that I'm keeping over here. And again, this is why I question how some of these people talking head to how long they've been Dolphin fans for. Do y'all not remember what we used to do to Tom Brady? Come on. JT and Wake used to have that. You could hear the chattering of Brady's teeth throughout the stadium when they started getting pressure early on. That's how we beat them so much in our own home. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, Man, pressure matters for quarterbacks. Like, I'm going to tell you this right now. Like, this is a real thing. Like, what did someone call it? I read a tweet today about it. They called it, I believe they called it, I want to say they called it like quarterback trauma or something like that. And I was like, oh, hey, that's an interesting little, that's an interesting little anecdote. And it is what it is. The person was basically talking about the fact of from pressure, right? It's called pocket trauma. All right. There's a really great, one of the smartest Twitter accounts there is out there. It's called Honest NFL, right? This person clearly, they were involved in the NFL to a big level. And he had a tweet today, and he said, pocket trauma is a real thing, and Mahomes was feeling it for most of this game. When the structures of the pocket is compromised early and often, it affects everything. And that's 110% right. And that's why I said, remember when I saw in the fourth quarter, if you watched the live reaction with me, I said, why did you wait so long to start moving the pocket? Because what did they start doing to try and negate pressure late in the game in the fourth quarter? They started moving the pocket for Mahomes. But they waited way too long. You needed to make the adjustments right away, and they didn't. You need to start getting that pocket on the move right away. And, I don't know, the way too many, 5-step drops. They just needed to move the pocket and adapt to a quick passing game, and they didn't. They were stubborn. They stuck to it, and they paid for it. And Fangio and that defense feasted. So it's crazy. Again, they blitzed 0 times. And what did yesterday prove? Defense can still win you championships. It's never going to change. Just like, guess what? Games are won and lost in the trenches. The oldest cliche. I say it all the time when Richmond's up here. One of the best left tackles to ever play the game. Games are won and lost in the trenches. Defense wins championships. Some of the oldest cliches in the book. They will never go out of style. And yesterday was more representation of them. And really, that took a team effort to beat the Chiefs. Hurts did not beat them by themselves. Saquon Barkley, I told y'all he'd be contained and shut down a little bit, and he was. That was a team effort. That took all 53 players on the roster, all 3 phases, and the coaching staff on the sideline. That was a team effort to beat the Chiefs the way they did. That would show you. That's why you're not seeing one-man shows win Super Bowls. Funny how this works, huh? I want you to think about this for a second. Let's really think about this. Who are the 3 players that have now beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs? Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady, Joe Burrow, and now Jalen Hurts. What do they all have in common? You ready to play this game? What do they all have in common? Right? Trenches. The Patriots, when they beat Mahomes in the AFC Championship, had Dante Scarnecchia, never cheapened on the offensive line. They also had a really great defense. Joe Burrow. Before we get to Joe Burrow. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady again. What did they have? They drafted Tristan Wirfs. They had a great offensive line in front of them, right? And they had a great defense. Right? Joe Burrow. Now, the offensive line wasn't as hot, but they were investing in the offensive line, trying to make it work. And a lot of the sacks Joe Burrow took on that run were because of what? The hot reads. He wasn't making the proper hot reads, and he was getting killed because of that. Was more on Joe Burrow, not the offensive line. If you go look at a lot of the sacks, they were charged to Burrow, not the offensive line. But what they have, a great defense, right? That defense was lights out at that time for that run. And now look at Hurts. Great offensive line. Great defense. Do you see the combination? Every team that's beat the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, it's been a team effort. It has not been a one-man show. It has not been Lamar Jackson running around, throwing for 300 and running for 150. It hasn't been Justin Herbert coming out here and throwing for 500 yards with his big arm. It's taken team efforts to beat the current dynasty in the NFL. All of those teams that beat them in the playoffs have had great defenses. The majority of them have had great offensive lines. They've been solidified in the trenches. They built inside out properly. And this ain't even a Tua thing. You could go draft Jackson Dart. You could go trade up for Cam Ward tomorrow. And I'm still going to say this. This is not even a Tua thing. This goes back to what I said when I joined this community and started becoming a voice in this community by going on the Tuesday night panel in October 2019. I said, I don't care if you draft Tua. I don't care if you draft Herbert. I don't care if you draft Burrow. I don't care if you draft Love. Build me what they have in Oakland and Indianapolis, because the Raiders' offensive line hadn't fallen off at the time and one of the best in the business. And Indianapolis, Quentin Nelson was in his prime, one of the best lines in the business. They had built it finally, but too late for Andrew Luck. But I said, that's what you need. Because guess what? If Burrow, Herbert, and this is what I would say, if Burrow, Herbert, Tua, Love, whoever doesn't work out, at least you've got it built for the next guy. And then what can you go do? You could go get a good, this is what I would say, go get a good running back behind a wall. That running back can become great. They can find another level to the game. Wide receivers. You can go get good wide receivers, and because of the time and the protection that offensive line will give you with the proper distributor, those receivers can now become good to great. It all starts right there in front of the quarterback. And what's been the two themes of Patrick Mahomes' Super Bowl losses? The offensive line. Go watch the Tampa game. Go watch yesterday. One of the greatest to ever do it. Even he can't operate properly without protection. Go figure. Crazy. So, just a team effort. That's all it was. So, who's the Jabroni of the week? You know we ain't got to stop for the Jabroni. You know, what are you doing over here? Huh? It's got to be. I'm sorry. Every Dolphins fan that doubted and wrote off Fangio, I'm sorry. We gotta wear the we gotta wear the crown. We gotta wear the Burger King crown. I'm sorry, you gotta wear the Burger King crown this week. Honestly, I haven't gone back, and I don't even remember what my takes were when Fangio left. I honestly don't. So I don't even know if I fall under that category. I'm sure one of you in the chat will remind me what I said. But I know when we got Fangio, I was hyped. And I was like, this is the dude. Because Mike McDaniel wanted him actually in year one. And Greer and everyone else convinced him to keep Crossman and Boyer. But he wanted Fangio in year one. I don't even remember what my takes were. I honestly don't remember what my takes were. But it is what it is. I mean, you know, let's be honest here. He's sitting here polishing a Super Bowl ring, and I'm sitting here still waiting for us to win a playoff game. It is what it is. I don't know. Got to be objective. So, it is what it is, man. I don't know. If I wear that crown, I wear that crown. I've worn a ton of the Jabroni of the Week crowns before. I honestly don't remember my takes. I know when we got him, I was hyped because I knew how real this was. But to see another franchise reaping the benefits of that, oh my God. It's such a... That's so Dolphins. Can we all say that together now? You know what this is? You know what we're living in real time? What have I told you guys since we were like 2-4, when we were 2-4, right? I said Greer is the one that's in trouble right now. McDaniel will stay, et cetera, right? And what did I say? I said, you know what? Maybe we keep, McDaniel for another year and see how it goes, because what's so Dolphins? What we've seen with Dan Campbell, where McDaniel leaves, we bail on him because it's too early in the process. He goes, learns under someone else, figures it out, gets it right, and some other franchise reaps the benefits of it. We're living that with Fangio, like right now. Ouch. Like, that is so Dolphins. That is so Dolphins. I don't know what else to say. That's just so Dolphins. Like, oh my God. All right, let's get into this. We're going to get into this because I think the Dolphins do. This is a perfect segue into the Dolphins got a deeper problem than the offense. But before we do, like I said, this episode is sponsored by BetUS. Here are your next Super Bowl winner odds for Super Bowl LX. The Eagles and Chiefs are obviously the favorites. Ravens and Bills and Lions right there behind them. I like how the Chargers make this list. Like, what are we saying right now? Give me a break. All right, so go to betus.com right now. Use promo code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. Get your first 3 deposits matched by 150% up to $2,000. Some of the quickest payouts in the industry. 24/7 customer service. And you're going to want to get that promo code in use. You know why? March Madness is coming up, and BetUS is going to be your number one sports book for March Madness as well. All right. So the Dolphins, to me, they've got a deeper problem than just the offense. We're sitting here. We watch what happens yesterday. And we've listened to certain Eagle players like Darius Slay and such talk about how much they've bought into Fangio. And I think we've got a really deep problem here. And it's not just the fact that he left, but let's go over it. Because I do think there are a couple issues here. And one of them isn't being talked about enough. So, if you guys remember, going back to, funny enough, about, if you do the math, about 375 days ago, so just over a year ago, about a year, week and a half ago, this article came out from Ron Jaworski on Pro Football Network saying Dolphins players who criticized Vic Fangio did not want to work. So basically what had happened was criticism from Dolphins players should be taken as a grain of salt. That's what Jaworski had suggested. And he said because they were more interested in living the Miami lifestyle than putting in the work, per Jaworski. In the hours and days after Fangio and the Dolphins announced their mutual decision to split last week, some Fangio players in Miami took some shots at him. Javon Holland suggested he should kick rocks. Cam Smith said a lot was unlocked emoji tweet. Tyreek Hill said, I'm not surprised he landed in Philly. People talk around the league behind closed doors. They was like Vic trying to get to Philly anyways. I just wanted to shout out Coach Vic for making a stop in Miami. I learned a lot from him, even though it was quick. He's really a guru at defense. He's just got to learn how to fit in with his players. So Jaworski had basically said, coach is coach. I have connections as well around this league, and I hear another side of that story, that there were some players on the defense that didn't want to work, didn't want to put the time in, didn't want to put the effort in, didn't want to make the commitment to be successful. Guys like to party at night, and South Beach is really a great place to party, and Vic tried to get those guys and push those guys to become harder workers and better athletes and more committed to their team, and he couldn't get through to those guys. Those were the guys that Vic was pushing, and those are the guys that are whining now. Another interest. Okay, so I got another little interesting article we'll go over, but before we do that, so let's talk about this. Cam Smith. I've made this public. I've heard through the grapevines when all this was going down. Why do you think it took so long for them to give Cam Smith? You remember it took so long for them to give him that bonus, the draft bonus, the signing bonus? You remember that? Remember how long? Remember they waited? He was like the last player in the NFL to sign his rookie deal. Dude, they did that on purpose. You know that. I've told you guys this story before. They did that on purpose because of things they were seeing. All right? You know? Like I heard Puffin the Magic Dragon, the party life, all that kind of stuff. That's why they waited so long to give Cam Smith that rookie deal. That's why it took so long for him to sign it. So there is some validity to that, and I've said this before, so that's nothing new. Now, we know Xavier Howard liked to party. We know Xavier Howard liked to frolic with the females. And you saw Ron Jaworski talking about, certain players like the South Beach lifestyle, et cetera, and those are the ones he was pushing. Tyreek Hill's one of those guys. I know for a fact a bunch of them were partying right after they landed in Seattle this year for the Seahawks game. I know they're out till the wee hours of the morning. Jalen Ramsey was with them, et cetera. See, but then when you read the further comments of, about not putting in the work and the commitment to be successful, they didn't want to put the effort and the time in. He's also probably talking about guys like Ramsey. And I'm not saying whether he's right or wrong. I'm just telling you who he's talking about. Remember, Ramsey was one of those guys who was arguing with Fangio. He wanted to be moved around like a chess piece. Right? He wanted to be moved around. He wanted to travel more. Now, Weaver gave into that request this year, and what did we learn? That Ramsey was trailing a little bit more in coverage than we had seen in previous years. So, I've talked about this before. Was Fangio maybe right? Fangio was right. Like, we know Xavier Howard was coming to him and saying, I want to go against the top guys. I want to travel with them. And Fangio looked at him and said, are you crazy? And we know Fangio was right about that because we saw the groin issues. We saw that Xavier Howard had lost a step. It's all on film. He was right. So, this is a deeper problem because you had a guy who came in here, fresh mind. He had never been part of this organization before. And these are the type of characters you're constructing your roster with. Like, listen, I love Ramsey. I love Jalen Ramsey. But look at the difference of Jalen Ramsey and the difference of Darius Slay to how they bought into Fangio and how they connected with Fangio. Darius Slay isn't the player he was 5 years ago, but the player he was 5 years ago was one of the best corners in football. Perfect example. Look at Cam Smith couldn't see the field. Look at how big of a key piece Cooper DeJean was for Fangio. Look at how key of a piece Quinyon Mitchell was for Vic Fangio. The narrative trying to be pushed out, and even I fell a little bit of a victim to it, was he didn't like to play rookies. But I stopped being a victim to it during last season when we saw the effort he was putting in towards getting Ethan Bonner in the lineup. That's when you stopped hearing about the rookie stuff for me with Fangio, because the Ethan Bonner stuff contradicted that, and contradicted it badly because Ethan Bonner was a UDFA. And look at Ethan Bonner gave us some of the best reps at corner last year, and they almost went out of their way to make it a point to not play Ethan Bonner at all this year. Now, another thing too, and this goes deeper, and this is where I'm going with this all. Let me finish this off. Okay, well, not finish this off, but let me continue stacking on the point I'm making. Who remembers this article? Vic Fangio, I tried to get the Dolphins to trade for Milton Williams last year. This is from August 6, 2024. This is before the season started. Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis get the most attention at defensive tackle with the Eagles, but Milton Williams could be in line for a big role this season as well. Defensive coordinator Vic Fangio got to know Williams when he worked as a consultant with the NFC East team during the 2022 season, and the lineman made a strong enough impression that he remained on Fangio's mind after the Dolphins hired Fangio to run their defense in 2023. One of the things Fangio tried to do before his only season in Miami was get Williams down to Florida with him. Yeah, I like Milt. Milt's a good player, Fangio said. He's a solid both versus the run and in the pass rush. He's a guy that from afar I've liked that the Eagles have had. In fact, I tried to get us to trade for him last year in Miami, but Howie wouldn't do it. But I like Milt. Milt is a pro. So now here's another thing. Now I know he credits Howie not doing it, but come on. What would it have really taken to pull Milton Williams away? Like, but here's the vision. He wanted to trade for Milton Williams. He saw the potential of Milton Williams. Milton Williams just had a breakout year under Fangio. Milton Williams in the Super Bowl was phenomenal. 4 tackles, 2 sacks, fumble recovery. Like, this is another indictment. Like, you couldn't get the guys Fangio wanted. And look at what the player ends up being on the biggest stage. Again, we're coming back to roster construction. Sounds like he knew exactly what the hell he was talking about. And you got Deshaun Elliott said the Dolphins were soft as FUCK last season. You've got Welker being fired when I heard he was one of the harder coaches, held players to a higher standard, which is only going to push that soft narrative even further. Now, in fairness, I believe in Anthony Weaver. I think we did get another great defensive mind. I really, really do. But the Fangio situation has just highlighted how much, like, everyone wants to make it, oh, it's McDaniel. Oh, it's Tua. Oh, it's Tyreek. No, this runs much deeper. Because I look at that Milton Williams thing as Greer gets whoever McDaniel wants. Why couldn't you get who Fangio wanted? Let's not act like it would have taken a first-round pick for Milton Williams. Let's not act like it would have probably even taken a second or a third. And no wonder he wanted to leave. You got players not buying in, and the guy making all the moves and roster decisions can't land guys you want to help fulfill your vision. No wonder you want to leave. You know, like, I would understand how he wouldn't do it if we're talking like A.J. Brown, Jalen Carter, one of the big boys here. We're talking Milton Williams. Let's not act like this would have taken a lot here, okay? This wouldn't have taken a day 1 or day 2 pick. And, I'm just sitting, and he ended up being right again. He ended up being right again. That's what's crazy. I know how on board I was when we brought him in Miami. And it looks like if he would have been able to stay, we could have got something out of it. But once again, that's just so Dolphins. And once again, this situation has proven that the problems with this team run further than the offense and even the product on the field, and they run all the way to the top. And you know what? Vic Fangio, he probably thought, look at an old school guy. He saw the writing on the wall with you want to know my honest opinion? Fangio saw the writing on the wall of how this was all going to play out. Fangio saw we have a ceiling with this team because of their lack of focus. Because think about it. Who are the leaders in the room at the time when Fangio's here? Xavier Howard and Tyreek Hill. They're out chasing tail and partying on South Beach, even though they got baby mamas at home, right? Then you got Jalen Ramsey, great leader, not very vocal, but he's arguing with you about how you're using him, and Cam Smith. Then your other leaders, Christian Wilkins, who you pretty much know, yeah, I want him here, but he's on his way out. Then one of your other vocal leaders, who doesn't have a C on his chest, is Andrew Van Ginkel, who Fangio had to sit down, convinced to stay by taking less money, and then they still got rid of him anyways when Fangio left. Because why? Weaver wanted Shaq Barrett. Think about that. If Fangio would have stayed another year, Shaq Barrett would have never came here, and Andrew Van Ginkel would have came back. So all of you people that are up in arms and pulling your hair out about what you saw Andrew Van Ginkel do in Minnesota, he would have been in Miami if Fangio was still here. Again, another right roster move. Crazy. But again, Fangio saw that. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, Fangio saw Milton Williams fits with what we want to do. Fangio saw the potential in Andrew Van Ginkel, was like, yo, don't lose this kid, keep him here. But they haven't even taken Chris Grier hasn't even taken any notes from his time with Fangio and said, oh, okay, maybe this is what I should look for. This is what I should look for. No. Instead, yeah, okay, go. Right? Like, Chris Grier, Andrew Van Ginkel alone. Chris Grier, you drafted him. One of the best defensive minds in the NFL in the last 22 years, who a third of the NFL was running his system, comes in and identifies him as a keeper and a piece. That doesn't click to you and give you conviction in the guy you drafted. You just let a new guy come in and say, yeah, move off of him, bring in Shaq Barrett. Again, we come back to roster construction. They learned no lessons from their time with Fangio at all, it seems. When, look at short stay, but it seems like Fangio was starting to build a little bit of a recipe to success that by year 2 or year 3 could have popped off if you followed his blueprint. Instead, he takes his blueprint to Philly. All of them buy in. They have arguably the best defensive performance we've ever seen against the Andy Reid and Mahomes era Chiefs. And we're sitting here, sitting on our thumbs, still hoping for a playoff win. If that ain't so Dolphins, I don't know what is. And this is why we keep saying, and that's why the term even exists, that's so Dolphins. And now you know why I'm not overly optimistic that this will get fixed. So, but hey, we'll see. Clean slate as of today. The season is over, so let's see what you got. And I mean, what did the Super Bowl, really tell us? I mean, are the Chiefs, is the dynasty dead? I don't think so. I think they'll be right back there. I think they're going to be even more determined this offseason to fix it, and that doesn't bode well for the AFC. And, and again, what did I say? We learned that you got to protect your quarterback and you got to disrupt the other one. And that's where it all starts. So, it is what it is. Article from Dave Hyde here. And it says, the Eagles won the Super Bowl on the back of mistakes by Dolphins and others. The Miami Dolphins traded up to the third spot in the 2013 draft to take edge rusher Dion Jordan, the biggest bust in team history. With the fourth pick, and this is who I thought the Dolphins were trading up to take, the Philadelphia Eagles took Lane Johnson, a 6-time Pro Bowl left tackle. The Dolphins took Javon Holland with the 36th pick at the top of the second round in the 2021 draft. He's had a nice 4 years, decent. With the 37th pick, the Eagles took guard Landon Dickerson, a 3-time Pro Bowl player in his 4 years. The Dolphins didn't want defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. Too old, too gruff. Players celebrated his leaving after one season. Holland shows a metaphorical rock being kicked down the road. Rookie Cam Smith showed a padlock being unlocked as if his game would be freed. Fangio's defense was the star of Sunday's Super Bowl, sacking Kansas City quarterback Mahomes 6 times, intercepting him twice, and shutting the Chiefs' offense down for a decisive 27-0 lead at half. If there was a theme to Sunday's Super Bowl, one a team like the Dolphins need to take to heart this offseason, it's this. Sometimes you don't have to be the smartest team to stock your roster with championship talent. Sometimes you just need to recognize other teams' mistakes. The season really starts with the front office, and that starts with me, Howie Roseman said last week. So when we have good off seasons, it usually leads to success during the regular season. So I think that's our responsibility. That's my responsibility. He hasn't lost much, nor has Kansas City GM Brett Veach, in making 5 of the past 7 Super Bowls and winning 4. You need to start like that in the front office if you're going to play in the last game of the season. And it takes talent to find talent. Man. And Roseman qualifies as a star in that regard. This was the second Super Bowl champion he's assembled in 7 years. It's a third team he's taken to the Super Bowl in that span. His secret? Don't mess up. Recognize when other teams mess up too. The Dolphins were featured simply because they're the local team, but the truth is Roseman has taken advantage of a league where most teams make major mistakes in March and April that you see in January and February. Philadelphia won the Super Bowl starting this time last year with the kind of offseason you dream about if you're a Dolphins fan. Running back Saquon Barkley was let go by the New York Giants, signed by Rosen for $12 million a year, and led the league in rushing behind one of the league's top offensive lines. Zach Bond started 14 games in 4 years for New Orleans before signing a 1-year, $3.5 million deal with the Eagles. He became an all-pro player, a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year, and intercepted a Mahomes pass at the Chiefs' 14-yard line Sunday to set up a second quarter touchdown. Roseman's first 2 picks, cornerbacks Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, didn't just start all season. Imagine that. They also were finalists for Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. DeJean returned a pick 6 of Mahomes Sunday to make it a 17-0 game. Do you see what can be? How a team with significant holes in the offseason can make so many good decisions? They're back winning the Super Bowl. This will take some soul searching too. Players bashing Fangio on his way out of town was telling. Did Smith unlock his padlock sitting on the bench again this year? Did Holland's play merit mocking a coach who just did to Kansas City what no team has for years? All Fangio did was develop rookies, involve newcomers, turn the 31st pass defense into the league's best, and put on a strategic clinic in shutting down Mahomes on Sunday. It's fair to say new defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver is a better fit for Mike McDaniel's Dolphins. It's also fair to ask, why do Fangio's old school methods work better on the hard scrapple Eagles than the country club Dolphins? That's the kind of questions the Dolphins general manager Chris Greer and McDaniel should be dissecting over the coming weeks as they try to right this franchise. Philadelphia assembled a champion in part of other teams' mistakes and in part of being smarter. Take the 2021 draft. The Dolphins traded back from the 3rd pick to the 12th pick for 2 more first-round picks. They then traded one of those picks to swap positions with Philly. The Dolphins took Jalen Waddle. Philadelphia moved up to 10th, and they took Devontae Smith. Who got the better of the deal? Smith and Waddle have been fairly comparable, even if Smith got a 6-yard touchdown on Sunday. But with that added first-round pick, Philadelphia came out with defensive tackle Jordan Davis, a star in the making who had a sack Sunday. Do you see why the champs are the champs? Jalen Hurts' second-round pick was a Super Bowl MVP, but the game was won by Roseman. He built a champion, good decision by good decision. It's what the Dolphins have to start doing if they ever need to get off this cycle of mediocrity. And he's right. You passed up on Penei Sewell. Or if you wanted a receiver, you could have stayed at 3 and taken Jamar Chase. No, I'm not knocking the Waddle pick. I'm just talking about, I would have taken Sewell. I mean, I was the biggest Penei Sewell guy there was in this community. I would have taken Sewell. But, yeah. The other one too, right? Creed Humphrey. They didn't mention it there. I can give you some more in 2020 alone. You traded up for Liam Eichenberg with Creed Humphrey on the board. You want me to do you one better? You drafted Hunter Long over Quinn Miners when one of your offensive coordinators at the time was alum from Whitewater, Wisconsin, where Quinn Miners went. So that 2021 draft was full of mistakes all by itself. Hunter Long over Quinn Miners, one of the best guards in the NFL now, that's a fireable offense. Trading up for Liam Eichenberg with Creed Humphrey on the board when all of us were screaming, Creed, Creed, Creed. Fireable offense. I don't even just got to go off Penei Sewell. That 2021 draft is full of mistakes. Full of mistakes. Go to 2020. You had the San Francisco 49ers willing to accept a deal if you sweeten the pot a little bit because they're afraid of missing out on Javon Kinlaw. All you needed to do was add another day 3 pick, like a 4th or 5th rounder, and you probably would have got it done. You balked at it. The Bucks traded up one spot, and they got worse. And instead, you had to settle for Austin Jackson. You were originally going to take DeAndre Swift. Then you decided to trade back. Then you let Brian Flores get in your ear and take Noah Igbenogany when you had Jonathan Taylor on the board. But I was telling everyone all draft season, you need to come out of that first round with Tua, Wirfs, and Taylor. Look at them. They're all studs. Now you got to write with Hunt. Just saying. And here's another thing, and this is what I want to say. I want everyone who's listening right now, watching right now, I want you to close your eyes and listen to what I'm about to tell you. And this is why I don't ever want to hear, Tua and Tyreek and Waddle's contract are hampering this team. This is why I don't want to hear it. Close your eyes and take in what I'm about to tell you. Philadelphia has 8 guys playing on a contract that's worth $50 million or more in total, and 6 guys making an average annual salary of $20 million or more. Think about that for a sec. Philadelphia Eagles have 8 guys playing on a contract that's worth $50 million or more in total, and 6 guys making an average annual salary of $20 million or more. So don't tell me a quarterback contract should stop you from building a roster, because Howie Roseman has built through the draft. Remember when a lot of you were balking at me when I said I would trade our first-round pick and Christian Wilkins to go up and get Jalen Carter? You know how many people balked at me and thought I was crazy and had 3 heads? Now what do you think? Would have done that in a heartbeat. Would have done that in a heartbeat. But he's built properly through the draft. We haven't. It's the same thing with the Lions' success. Look how many players they have that have been on my man crush list. From Laporta to Jack Campbell to Penei Sewell. Look at how many guys. But also, what do I always talk about with the Lions? Look at that Lions offensive line. That Lions offensive line is stacked with high picks last year. Like, stacked with high picks. Right? You know, Taylor Decker. Where is he drafted? Oh, yeah. First round. Penei Sewell. Where is he drafted? Oh, yeah. First round. You know? I think their lowest drafted guy was Graham Glasgow because he was drafted in the 3rd round. But even Kevin Zeitler, who they brought in, you know, obviously from Baltimore. Where was he drafted? First round. Right? You look at Frank Ragnow, right? Their center. Where was he drafted? 20th overall, first round. Literally, the Lions have 4 first-round picks and a 3rd-round pick on their line. Think about it for a sec, man. It matters. It matters. Now, you want to hear something crazy? Let's get ready. Article today on NFL.com. And we could have had Matt Ariza. Instead, we had to watch him punt in the Super Bowl. Exactly, Brian. 2025 NFL free agency. 6 franchises with the toughest task this offseason. The rise and fall of franchises in the NFL is constant and inevitable. And it's thanks in no small part to the balancing effects of the salary cap and free agency. For every sudden ascension like the one we saw from the 2024 Washington Commanders, there's a sudden decline like the one experienced by the San Fran 49ers last season. When March rolls around, every team strives to get better, but a few are bound to lose a step. Here's a look at 6 franchises with the toughest task ahead of them in 2025 free agency. Before we get there, though, here are a pair of teams that just missed the top 6. So, honorable mention for them are the Commanders and the Saints. Number 6 is the Vikings. Now, they got $50 million, $8 million in cap space. Number 5 are the Jets. They got $20.9 million. The 49ers are 4. They got $48.2 million. The Cowboys, they're at negative $2.8 million. They're at 3. The Falcons are at negative $11.1 million. They're at 2. And there you go. They have ranked the Miami Dolphins as having the toughest task this offseason. This is what they'd say. Like the Falcons, the Miami Dolphins are coming off a disappointingly mid-season and are concerning 11 plus million in the red. They've stalled out somewhere in the middle of the AFC, coming out off a 5th straight season, somewhere between 8 to 11 wins and 0 playoff success. And they're in big trouble on the impending free agents front. Defensive stars. Okay, Jordan Poyer's not a star. Javon Holland, Emmanuel Ogbah, and Calais Campbell are all on expiring contracts. Well, the only one who played a star last year out of that group was Calais Campbell. He's the only one who was a star last year. Full-time starting offensive lineman Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg on the same boat. Oh, shucks. The franchise cannot just return some semblance of the 2024 roster if it wants to climb the ladder in the AFC. As Tyreek Hill pointed out in his passionate postseason memorandum of the state of the team, the Dolphins need to add some dogs if they want to fix this stretch of late season failure. Those dogs are going to be expensive. Miami might not have the space to pay for them. Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer are both returning for 2025, but this squad could remain lost in the quagmire of the wild card race without some inspired moves in the months ahead. I'll tell you this much. Okay. I hope those inspired moves aren't trying to trade for Myles Garrett or Max Crosby or Cooper Kupp. Now, they've got the ability to restructure and make a whole bunch of money. All right? We already know this. Bradley Chubb, restructuring him frees up $13 million. Now I know some people don't want to restructure Tua, but that frees up $19 million if you restructure Tua. Tyreek Hill, I don't know if you want to restructure him, but he saves $7 million. Terron Armstead, if he's staying, you save $9.5 million if you restructure him. Austin Jackson, $7.3 million. Like, there is restructurable money here on the table for this team. Sealer and Brooks, you restructure both of them, you can make $11 million freed up. Structure Brewer and Fuller, you could save over $7 million. So there's a lot of money that you are able to create here. It's just you got to be smart. You can't keep kicking that can down. Like, you can't. I mean, they will, because they don't care. If they lose, they're done. They're going to bring back Chubb, so I would restructure that. That saves you $13.7 million. Terron sounds like he's coming back, so that will save you $19.5 million, right? So we're at like $23 million between the two of them. Ramsey and Austin Jackson can be restructured. That'll save you another $10 million. So, right there, you got like $33 million. They're going to restructure Tua. That'll take you to about $54 million. You restructure Sealer and Brooks, takes you to $64 million you freed up. You restructure Kendall Fuller and Aaron Brewer. Now you freed up like $71 million. So you'd be like $60 million. You'd have $60 million of cap space. So, that's just a rough go at it. So there's money to create. There's money to create for sure for this team. You know what this team, what's crazy? And this is the worst. This is the worst feeling in the world. This is the worst feeling in the world, being this deep into the build and you need injuries to other star quarterbacks in the AFC for us to probably have a shot. That's like so sad. How did we win our last division, right? With the wild card. Didn't Brady get hurt that year too? Like, we are in such a box. Like, every free agent move, every roster move, every draft move needs to be so calculated, so strategic. You need to hit on like 80 or 90% of the stuff you do in the, like, we know he hit on Calais last year. You can't have the whiff you had on the secondary room with like Marcus May and Poyer and stuff. I can't even call Fuller a whiff because he was hurt, but you can't afford those type of whiffs this year. Like, you need to hit on everything. You need to hit on like 80 or 90% of your moves this offseason. And the stuff that the 10% you don't hit on cannot be glaring. We are literally in territory for such minuscule error allowed. Like, we are, and we need our rookie class to contribute. We need like 3 or 4 rookies to contribute this year. Like, and real contributions. Not little ones here and there. Like, we need what the Eagles had. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, both landing 2 of the, the 2 of them were 2nd and 4th place in Defensive Player of the Year voting. Like, we needed someone with chop. And then we need people on the offensive side that give you a run and flash. So, we'll see what they got up their sleeve. Here we go. And you're right, Robert. Projects, this is a year where you can't afford projects. You need sure things. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new. We'll be back on the next one. Just a reminder, I will be away next week, but I got some videos dropping for you. I'll be away Sunday to Thursday in Vegas, but I got some videos scheduled for you this week. Finish line, Fin Too Deep, all that coming your way. So a lot of content coming your way. Fins up, smash the like button. And shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this video. See you on the next one.